Welcome everybody. My name is Melissa Brace. Today we're going to do some channeling. We're going to channel Freddy Mercury. It's going to be fun. I will tell you a little bit of a story about my journey, shadow work, life healing, synchronicities, things as such as it pertains to Freddy Mercury, and tell you about how he helped me throughout my lifetime off and on in my healing and shadow work. And so when I refer to shadow work, I am talking about all of us have wounds, traumas, energy healing to do. Could be past lives, could be this life, it could be last week, it could be second grade. We all come in with challenges and issues, and could be addictions, it could be generational curses or sins of the father. Many aspects. It could be mass consciousness, it could be anything, but referring to shadow work, it means diving down deep inside of us, doing your self work, inner child work, healing within. So all of us light workers, starseeds, indigo types, we're all on that journey. So last week it was my day off, and I had two things planned, only two things: not to look at the phone, not to do anything else, not to think about anything or anyone else but myself, and go do energy work. I've been really sick, like almost dying sick, and so over the last months, off and on, just in spurts, and it's been really bad. So I was doing medical, and that has been really disappointing and icky, as it has more than once in my lifetime. So true to my path, I just focused and added energy work, alternative therapies, holistic, natural, naturopathic healings. And so last week on my day off, one of the two things that I had planned was to go to do energy work, my shadow work. And so I did that. It was really wonderful. I got to be with the facilitator's name is Karen, and all of us, we need help. We need our soul tribe. We need helpers. We need healers to help us, all of us, and on our journey. And so Karen, who's in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and owns Tranquil Bliss Spa, not salon, sorry. Spectacular, amazing, advanced energy healer. So I went over pretty early in the morning, and we did, several hours of brutal and intense healing work for me. So it was, like early afternoon when I finished, and I thought, whew, that was awesome. That was good. I could feel it. Shed a couple of tears. It was so fantastic. And ouch at the same time. So I thought, okay, we'll go home. And I drove home. It takes me about an hour to get to my Oklahoma home from the Tranquil Bliss Spa. And so it was, kind of late afternoon when I got home, and I fed the dog early, and the only other thing I wanted to do was watch Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie, because I had not seen it yet. I was really excited, and always been a great fan of Queen and Freddie Mercury. And again, I would like to add, Freddie Mercury is the first person I ever channeled that was famous. I'm used to seeing angels all my lifetime, other people in spirit, ghosts, energies, all kinds of things. But channeling comes from this unity, one consciousness, higher realms, which I call the heavenly realms. And that is a unity consciousness. So it's his higher self. And so back in my 20s, I was really depressed. Early 20s, I was really depressed. I had been a victim of a really violent never-ending crime, it seemed like, where I was kidnapped and tortured by someone from my hometown that, we went to school together. So that was pretty yucky. And after some things like that happen to you, and I'm hoping they never happen to anyone, anywhere, ever, you're just not the same. I think it's the whole point of the crime is to harm you, break your spirit, oppress you, suppress you, wrap you in deep bondage of suffering. And so you tend to isolate and you work on, heal and all these things. But you're really never the same. So I was a little bit depressed. I was, I'm laughing because it was a little bit funny because I would put Queen music on every time I clean the house. Because I was doing dishes, that I like to have pile up in the sink still to this day. Do I do them all immediately, instantly when I'm finished eating? No, I don't, always. Or when I was vacuuming or cleaning in any way, I would put Queen on, and sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes Freddy Mercury would show up. And we would chat a little bit. He was very much a really soothing and strong, healing energy to me. He helped me strengthen, and it was just amazing. I had no thoughts of this the other day when I was, going to energy healing, doing my shadow work and painful work. And shadow work, our wounds come up sometimes. Many years later, we look at ourselves and go, oh, that's why I act like that, or things like that. So I had no correlation to this with Freddy Mercury being one of my healer guides many years ago and of recently. The last couple of years have been just pretty brutal. Lots of narcissist stuff going on, deceptive people in little groups, again, from where I grew up, that I went to school with, like really trying to harm me, break me, hurt me. Some little fun people that really hated me, I guess. Like, I personally think they need to get a job and they're a little jealous, but really tried to cause me some harm, and lots of meddling and lots of abuse and very peculiar kind of crime stuff. Trying to take my money, trying to trick me, trying to scam me, con me. And so there's some ladies that I grew up with that were, or, from where I'm from, which is ironic because some of these people grew up down the street from the person that kidnapped me and was pretty much hunting me in my early adulthood. So bizarre, strange, but it's true. So I'm going back to the story of, coming back from the spa and lots of shadow work. And I would not like to whine and complain. I'm just saying my path has been extremely tough and brutal in some ways. Persecutions, pain, suffering, violent crime, really sneaky, narcissistic people. And usually I'm around awesome, wondrous, joyous, soul tribe people. But, sometimes there's, a little dark soul that comes in. And all of us on the spiritual path, light workers and star seeds and indigo children and such, we cross paths with, narcissistic, creepsters here and there in our lifetimes. My story is a little extra, but I'm really thankful. I've learned a lot. And at the end of the day, there's darkness. And so we need to learn how to rise up and lift up out of that darkness. And so it is part of the adventure for me. So I finally got home and turned on Bohemian Rhapsody, and I was just delighted and enjoying every bit of it. And it just, moment after moment, I was just in kind of in awe of the synchronicities in my life of 30 years ago versus, these last couple of years, in similar kinds of healing, similar kinds of experiences that I've had to experience, and being grateful for those things, and watching just the brilliant story of Freddie Mercury's life unfold on the Bohemian Rhapsody music. And I kept giggling, and the music just was, so fun. And the movie, all of the classic good songs came, through. And, I do like to quote Fat Bottom Girls, throughout all the years as well. Super fun. And I could feel Freddie Mercury's energy. I was not thinking about speaking to him or channeling him, during the movie, but I could feel him coming close. And so I was just delighted to speak to him as well. So he was telling me, like, as I was in realization and going, oh my gosh, he really helped me heal and grow and be myself and go on this great life adventure that I've had, amazingly cool life adventure that I've had. And the career helped me just go for my career when I was very resistant, even as a psychic medium, hypnotherapist, energy frequency worker, shamanic practices person. It's been my lifetime study and career, lifetime. And he's been on the journey with me along the way. So I'm very grateful, and grateful for every single piece of it. And watching his life unfold, it was amazing in the film. And he was very excited. He likes the film. He likes the video. He likes the Bohemian Rhapsody movie. And so he said, why don't you get with it? Like, some of my friends along the way have said, you know so much. Why are you not sharing some of these things that you've learned and studied? I mean, you've been doing this for almost 30 years. Being a psychic medium, you know so much. You have so much knowledge. Why are you not sharing? And I'm like, it's not time. I don't know. And I would just be blocked and not work on it. But last week when I was watching Bohemian Rhapsody is when Freddie Mercury said, snap with it, girlfriend. Let's go. And so here we go. To prepare, I kind of said a couple prayers and got grounded before I started the video. And I pulled a card from, oh, you're going to love this. This is awesome. The Sacred Geometry Activations Oracle deck. And it just has beautiful sacred geometry pictures, and it has a word, a frequency on each card. So I was shuffling them, here's the deck, and I could not have dreamed it up, really. I could not have chosen a better one. And so the one that came up when I was saying a prayer and getting ready for making this video and communicating with Freddie Mercury is dynamic. Check out this card, you guys. It's so pretty. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a reflection, but, so be it. Dynamic. What else, what word describes Freddie Mercury more? Dynamic, magnificent, dynamic. So this card, again, Sacred Geometry Activations, Oracle cards. It's a number 23, and in numerology, 2 plus 3 is 5, and 5 means change. And if you just feel this energy, you can go big change, like dynamic change. And I'm hearing Freddie Mercury giggle over to the side here. So it helped me get ready for this. The card reads, the dynamic card reads, the frequency of dynamic supports our ability to harmonize between layers and aspects of different origin and frequency. It helps us to put together a reality that is made up of many different elements, both familiar and completely new, with ease, grace, and great joy. And the second card, it was just an accident. It kind of fell out, was passion. I can't. Who has more passion than Freddie Mercury? Nobody we know. So passion is number 34. That's a 7. And passion 7 is sometimes in numerology, knowledge 1. Not alone, but lone, like knowledge. But passion, I mean, who's more passionate than Freddie Mercury? Come on, man. Like, just watch a video. It's awesome. So, so here we go. I'm going to kind of take a couple of deep breaths and grab a little sip of water, and we will start the channeling. He's here. He's saying, "Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get ready." He's saying, "Thank you all for being here. We're going to have a good time." He's making his arms big, saying, "Grand, big, good time." And he would like to tell you that he likes the movie about him, and he really appreciates the music living on, and he says that was his channeling, his creation, and he would like to share with us today that it's time for all of us to awaken to our creativity. And even if we feel very stifled, confused, doubtful, it's time for us to awaken to our creativity. And whatever frequencies we channel, he says, this is interesting to me. He says, throughout history, it is channeling or receiving from source what many people, including famous people and very unfamous people, are doing. So there are seers, clairvoyants, psychic mediums, sure, but there are mathematicians, scientists, and every single one of those musicians that you go, whoa, you can feel it. They channel. Their creativity comes through a frequency channel that they get to express. So the mathematicians that help us understand things, scientists, teachers, storytellers, channel and are inspired by their connection with source. I really love this. He says in his lifetime he was born to play a role that shared this music, that shared this frequency, and it was a frequency of change. There's nobody like him, nobody like Queen. Not before them, not after them, nobody. And he says the rock and roll with the opera, with the peculiar lyrics to some, and the deep, soulful lyrics to some, were all characteristic of his creation, his expression, as well as the other members of Queen. And there was a part in the movie where one of the band members said, "What is this?" Like they were recording Bohemian Rhapsody. And so he's like, "What? Galileo? What? Who's Galileo?" And because that's some of the lyrics in the song, and like, what does this mean? And he said it was just the creation. It was just meant to help us all come out of the box and be aware of our own connections with Source. He's calling Source, that purity, that divine plan, purpose, blueprint that we have, that sometimes we just can't figure it out. And he said he knew that, but he was very confused in many other ways in his lifetime. For instance, as the movie also states, truly his wife was just one of his, true soulmates, and he was so in denial about being gay. And it kind of expresses a little bit of that in the movie, that he just, he kind of he was really in denial and couldn't handle it all the way through all of his lifetime. And so part of his journey that he's very grateful for is the recognition of his true self, his shadow work, his willingness to open up and be his true self. So he would like to remind us all to remember to be our true selves. Even if someone else doesn't like it, even if your teeth are too big, or someone calls your body ugly and fat or thin or tall or short, or someone doesn't like you being out of the box and they judge you or persecute you, instead of walking on by and finding, where they belong. He says, be yourself. It is safe. So it is safer now than ever as we are in the midst of change. So this is one of the greatest things he learned, how to love himself and to recognize his true worth and power, which is glorious magnificence, not ego, not being cocky. It's, although he did pull that off sometimes on stage as his presentation, because it's part of who he came here to be. So again, he's saying, I just want to remind all of you that you're worthy and you are loved, and to be who you came here to be. This world is changing, he says, all around us, shifting, growing. So in terms of energy or spiritual work, we're very aware of shifting and awakenings and ascension journey that we're on. And he says all human beings are going through this. There's a balancing of the old, balancing of the shadows or wounds or pains inside of us. It could be past lives, it could be this life, but as a collective, as a planet, all of humanity, and maybe all of the creatures, the grass and the fur children and the winged children and the beings in the sea that swim, are all going through this sort of evolution and shifting. And he says, so don't get startled, but things are about to rock and roll. About to rock and roll, Freddy. What does that mean? And he says, just as there are, we can just visually see changes going on, and many times in history, there's it's been a little bit tumultuous. So he says, so there's a little bit more of that, but just know you're safe, and know that you're on the right track, and be yourselves, be kind and be good. And he says, and part of being yourself, you realize you are not in power over someone else. Meddling, pointing, judging, harming other people are really against the laws of God, the universal laws. So it is sort of comes down to the golden rule. So I'm very surprised he's saying this in this way, but he's sort of making funny, making it light, making it but strong, light but strong. And so he's saying, so watch the changes unfold as consciousness balances out. Perhaps we will keep recognizing some of our old old school dark ages false belief systems and the way we do things, patterns. He's saying patterns. And we'll kind of adjust it like you tune a musical instrument, like say you're tuning the guitar, or I played cello back in the day, and you could hear when you turn the knob, you could hear the string go ring, you know, and tuning the frequency up as we learn and we grow and we dissolve or transmute sufferings, crime, hatreds, war. He says war thinking, or going against each other, because we are all in this together, whether we're tall or short, rich or poor, or from a different border or country or state or neighborhood, whether our skin tones are exactly alike or not. We are all in this together. And he says, watch as great change occurs in these next years. And so just remember to be kind to one another and really encourage each other's creativities, creations, and manifestations, and people's truths, even if they seem foreign or strange to you. People's passions. Like, let's go over it again. Some of Queen's music was peculiar. I do not understand Bohemian Rhapsody, all of it. And he said, so don't shun or shrug off another's creations just because it's not just like yours, or if it's out of your box. So I'm saying thank you. This is very good. I like it. And he says, consequently, I was made fun of sometimes about my, small, skinny body and my big teeth. And my name I actually don't. And he had a different last name, but most of us were like, what? What is that last name? So Mercury does fit. And he says, I like that. But my family name was hard to pronounce or hard to understand, and to some people. So he says, so as we transmute persecutions and sufferings, we'll see the world change and grow, and it's a good thing. Some of the changes are not always easy. He said, so in any of our lives, as well as collectively, like in the human race life, not always easy pieces. Change, growth, creation, creativity, manifestation. I love this, Freddie. You're awesome. He says there's a calling going out, inside of our hearts and our souls, where many of us are we really want to help people. We just are not sure how. And we feel blocked and doubtful. And that's part of the change. It's a little tumultuous inside of all of us. And he says, follow your passions, be around things that you truly want to be around. If you love music, be around music. It doesn't matter if you're on stage and, famous or something. You just implement this in your life. It's the frequency that you should be around. If you love golf, immerse yourself in the frequency of golf. If you love, I'm saying science, be around that. Immerse yourself in these things. And he says you're safe. He would like to also say there are changes ahead in things like medical. He says, and I did not realize this until just recently. He helped me through times when I was depressed, but not only, I also had not just that, I had physical illness. I'm very sensitive. So sometimes my pain shows up as aches and pains in my body, or imbalances or illness. And so he says, so this is important to him because he eventually died of HIV/AIDS. And he says, watch as we learn, and maybe medical grows and our minds expand to understanding that if we use frequency and light and facilitate change in our belief systems, knowings, that we can help, like in leaps and bounds, go past illnesses, diseases, things like that. And he says, think back in time, there were plagues, and many people died of yellow fevers and flu, influenza. And we learned that with a frequency or a medicine, that lots of times that can be very much helped. He says polio. He's going back to plagues. You know, what if some of the plagues were really easy, but they didn't have the science and the knowledge at the time to heal them? So he says, so there's, you know, HIV, AIDS, cancers, things like that. There's been much growth since his passing, but there's more to come, and on every level. So it's, you know, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, physically, healing is going to grow in leaps and bounds. And I really like hearing that. I really love that. He says we're over medicated in some of the energy work, so changing the frequencies will help us heal many things. And maybe someday our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will never know what cancer means, or diabetes, or depression, or HIV AIDS, or you know, many things that just seem to be rampant. He says, you'll see it, you'll see it. So he was really glad to talk about that, and is what he's saying. Thank you for letting me speak about this. He says, back to the music. Back to the music, Freddy. He says, in my afterlife, he's being very dramatic. He's a cool cat, though. He's not always dramatic. He's very on it. He's very strong. He's being very dramatic, saying, I do get to be around music, energy. He says it's very colorful. Music is very colorful. So he gets to be around others of his similar nature. I'm asking him, are you around musicians? He says, yes. Sometimes, yes. And I said, do you also, in your heavenly life, sing, perform? And he says, yes, very much so. It's in him. And when he was born as Freddy, it was inside of him. He knew that was all he was here to do, like, and learn and grow and heal himself. But that's truly what he came here to do, and be a big expression of music, channeling, and help facilitate change in the world. This is just unbelievably cool how it's coming together, huh? Love this. Thank you, Freddy. And he says, so I sing, I perform here, and the place where I reside, like his heavenly space, energy, frequency, is really beautiful and strong. It's like very masculine, and yet loving and compassionate, which he showed through some of his songs, you know. He showed very vulnerable pieces of himself, like, you know, looking for love, and I want to break free from the things that, you know, keep me in bondage, in some of his music. And he says, so it's very masculine, but it's also balanced. The divine feminine and masculine are balanced here. And so he's very safe to be vulnerable in this place where earth is not so easy. he is saying he does not always like to be incarnate on earth. So he knew he had a big job, a big divine purpose to work on here when he was Freddy. And he kind of just did it forcefully. And he says there in his afterlife space, he's just very strong. He's around other strong musicians that were often misunderstood. Not just musicians, maybe like painters and poets and scientists and teachers. And he says there are others here, and he does have love. So in this lifetime, he was confused about his sexuality and he really wanted to have a partner, a mate. And he says that in this space he has soul family. He feels very at ease with this. He's not ever lonely anymore, which is a human condition, and I don't rightly like it there all that much. And I think most of the starseeds, which I would call him absolutely a starseed, we have times where we go, God, this place is a dumpster, skanky hellhole. Who would ever come here? And he says, I felt that way. I felt out of place. And I was doubtful. I had those fears and things inside of myself. And I say, I think every single human being, unless they're a robot or just maniacally crazy, beyond Hannibal Lecter type, then they have fears and doubts about themselves. They have feelings of not belonging sometimes. And he says, yes, but his was quite intense sometimes. And he knew, he just inside he knew he's not on earth all that often. So he came for a big purpose. He did it. He learned really hard stuff, but he also feels like he didn't belong quite as much as some people here. So he says in his afterlife, he's very much belonging and can be his whole self very easily. I love that. He's very colorful. It's like he has shades of purple and blue. So it's kind of a light turquoise aqua blue and purple around him right now, at least. And so this is the energy or frequency that he likes to reside in a lot. And he says, I do shows. I do, just because I don't have a physical body that you know of, like you know of, doesn't mean I'm not doing his work still as a soul. And one of his main works as a soul is to share frequency, share, expand things in a creation mode that is good. He's saying you cannot create energy, but you can change energy. So he's bringing great strength and amazing music to the universe. He says, yes, something like that. He also has chosen to be a human teacher, a humanity teacher. So people like you, especially when they resonate with Queen, he says they'll feel sometimes like the darkness has beaten you up so badly it breaks you. And sort of musical, or starseed. He says, he's winking, or starseed. So, starseed is just a term that, some of us just really have kind of a aching, long remembrance of we exist on different, dimensions. and God in God's hands. So the star seeds come to help facilitate change on Earth, and he's one. So not all of the star seeds are famous, of course. He had a big job, and he loves it. He loves being famous. I think he still is, he's famous in the universe. So we like this. But it's his job, his divine path continues, even though it's physically not in the same body, and he is more in a whole state, his higher self state. And so he exists in this really great place, but he does love humanity, and he comes when people get depressed or broken down by dark energy, and they get oppressed or suppressed from their passions, or he says frequencies, they're channeling. like I should understand this. Cool? Okay. Let's rock and roll, everybody. He says, in mass consciousness, there are many people. He's laughing at me. He's pointing at me saying, well, not too many people on your frequency. That's what he's saying. I'm like, really, Freddy? Really? And he's like, no, really, not too many people. You have a certain frequency. And so some people like to stay in this frequency here, and there are billions of people in some similar, and he says, and this one that you're on is not so many people. And he says, I'm not being rude. He says, it's just true. So I'm like, really? Like, really? You would say that in front of everybody? And he said, so I help starseeds. I help beautiful indigo crystal children, light workers, find their truth, and I help them find their passions, and I help them express. He's saying, watch as our throat chakras are opened some more and cleared out. So this year, in the next coming years, we will see people not coming from a place of panic and hysteria and like trying to overpower each other, as we watch some energies balance so that we can all lift up and grow together. And he says part of this is it's almost like unplugging and releasing the throat chakra, where we have all felt so stifled and not able to express or really be our true selves, or express our passions, or even remember what our passions are, how to do it. And he says, you're lucky because you somehow, it's almost like you were like, I'm going for it. And you didn't care how, I don't know, people you grew up with were rude, or, let me just stop that right there. Hold on here, Freddie. Most of the people are really awesome and great. There's just like a few that are icky in the past. So, and I'm grateful for them, and thank you for helping me learn. But, he said, you know, your adventure is like, you kind of don't care if, you know, people make fun of you or your job. I go, do you understand, Freddie, what it was like to be natural, God-given, super intense psychic medium energy? I see energy, Freddie. Do you think that was really fun growing up in the middle of the Bible Belt in Oklahoma before there were psychic mediums on TV before? And he goes, no. And he says, you knew you had like, it's your path, it's your spiritual path. So, and what I've studied and like dedicated my whole life to, which is right. So, he's saying, so you did it. You did put out a shingle before everyone, like, people were petrified to do so. And they still, like, sometimes in readings, he's showing me like hundreds of people have said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but, and I'm like, are you serious? Like I grew up in the Bible Belt as a really potent psychic medium, and had to learn, like it was like walking through a field with bombs in it. I had to learn hard things the hard way. He says, that's why you'll be a good teacher now. This is why you should talk. Watch the throat chakras open. Watch the people around you. And he says, I'm very excited when people find their passions, their music, and they can taste it. They can be in it. Even if it's just at home after work, or even if it's just, for 2 minutes to sing in the car or the shower. And he says, so I'm liking that, just as you enjoy hearing the stories of very advanced people who came here to be on the spiritual path and are unfolding in their spiritual gifts, their psychic abilities, their sensitivities, their empathy. These things are just glorious, big, good stuff. It's not easy. And he's saying, so be a good teacher and know that you have the knowledge to help others. And he's going back. He's like, almost like it's a big clarion call right now. And you don't have to be spiritually inclined, or you don't have to like channeling or psychic things at all. But people are being called inside. Like, you should help people. Like, plant some trees. We need to breathe better. There's chemtrails going on all the time. The government's not going to listen. It's making us all, die young and hurting the crops and blah, blah, blah. So he says each one of you are being called in your own way, wanting to help others or help the world in whatever way you are best at. It does not have to be famous. It does not have to be about music. It does not have to be about mysticism or spiritual things like I, Melissa, am. It could be about healthiness. It could be about everything in the whole world. So he's saying, all people, it's time to answer your call, even if others think it's weird and it's not out of the box. They're not in the same box or frequency. It's okay. You're safe, safer than ever. And I really like hearing that. As a targeted in my lifetime, it was brutal as well. And he's saying, yeah, so many of the musicians and people in the limelight over the years were very targeted and sort of controlled. And so he's saying it's safe. Be yourselves, people, and just, go inside and say, to your heart, yourself, God inside of you. Well, how can I help people? Do I need to go get a degree? Do I need to go quit my other job? Because no, each job, every single job, even the ones we think are a little bit lesser or a little bit more, each role that we play, we are capable of learning in ourselves and helping others. He's saying he's being very strong about this. So if you hate your job, if you work at the vet's office and you hate animals, you should probably, think on these things. But go for your passions and allow those things to be in your lives. And watch as the throat, he keeps going back. Maybe I didn't explain it very well, or express what I am as much as I was supposed to say. But he's saying, watch as the throat chakras become more clear, so each of us can express in healthier ways. I gotta say, in these last months, I was in circumstances that were extremely awful. And remember, I was intensely sick. So, you go down to those levels, and I was just griping. I couldn't. I said it the other day. I don't have any more to give. I'm not going to interact with crazy chaos. I'm not going for it. I'm not doing it. And I kind of feel bad because I went, no, like a cranky bag a couple of times. But Also he's saying, forgive yourselves for the past and for not knowing how to let go. Forgive yourselves for, saying and doing dumb things. Also forgive yourselves if you've hurt other people. And please send out, like forgiveness energy, like, I'm really sorry I've hurt you, other people. And all of us never hurt anybody on purpose. We're not harming people, causing problems, trying to ruin people's lives. And he says, so I would like to address that, because that is what's been in my sphere in the last years. I mean, I'm serious, like people actively lying to my face, trying to scam me, con me, and trying to cause great harm to, like, sneaky, deceptive craziness. And I'm like, who has time for that? And he's like, normal people, not so much. But you can go, and that is past. And he says, when that happened to him, it was part of his initiation. I like to use that word, initiation. Also, when you're talking to spirit, as a side note here, they use the words that I understand. They do not speak in English or Japanese. It's an energy. And I'm really good at going at different layers and levels of this. And just like he said, there's different layers and levels of the heavens. And so he's saying, sort of like, just realize no matter what we've done and said, we must forgive the frequencies, and we can choose not to do that again. And learn from it. And really appreciate the people that played roles that were really icky, snaky, deceptive, yuck balls people. Because he did in the movie that was like, the guy that was like, what? I didn't hide those things from you so you could never work, and gave you some whiskey for breakfast, and really put him in some dire straits. He learned from that. He learned boundaries. He learned his strength. He learned his true courage. He said it was an initiation to really recognizing his full worthiness. And so I really like that. That's super cool. Love it. He says he's, he works with, there's a collective consciousness. Not everybody would like Queen. Not everybody would be in his frequency, but he works with people that have had, been beaten up and feel a little bit out of place, or possibly had illness, or possibly had disappointment, that have a purpose. And he helps them as one of his jobs, helps them find their truth and passions and creativity and creation. So he's getting ready to shut things down a little bit. I can hear others behind him. He's getting ready for something. He's still kind of leaning forward. He's got his legs crossed and he's talking to me and, expressing. So I see him physically, full body. He's a little bit, actually, I've seen this before. They're in kind of different dimensions, so they're a little bit higher up than us. And so he's saying, thank you very much. I really appreciate you using me as the teacher facilitator through this, and he's really glad to be able to say hello to all of you, and hope you enjoyed it, and go be yourselves. And he says, I'm on soon, or I'm on. So he's exiting here in a moment. He says, I love you all. And he says, remember, some of the people, our families, friends, some of them really are not great, but loved ones, remember, we judge each other, we hide from each other, we don't understand each other. So just remind, your family and friends that really are your real people, that you love them and like them, and that that'll be a really good gift to them, as tumultuous as the changes and the, the, I don't know, times are, I guess. And remind each other that it's okay. We're all okay. Everyone's going to be okay. He's like, and I want to break free. He says, and you're all breaking free and doing a really good job. You should, kind of bow and hug yourselves at your great progress. And he says he'll be back if we would like to talk to him again. And he says, ask the people for questions if they would like to help you, do a channeling here and there. So if anyone watching would like to request a person that's passed for channeling and what kinds of questions you would want to ask, he says that's a good idea. He says, keep being the teacher. He's telling me that. And I'm assuming many of you as well. So, and he says, good job. Know you're safe and you're loved. Onward. So, okay. Freddy Mercury was the first famous person I ever channeled. And as I've said many times in my lifetime, the channeling is pretty usual to me. I do not talk to people that are passed all day, every day. That would be way too much for anyone. But I can handle it a lot. So over the years, I expect to see an angel here and there, or a star being, who are sometimes peculiar. It's a little bit like, like in Star Wars or Star Trek, when they all go to dinner or go have a drink, and there are some other beings there that are a little bit unusual looking. Chewbacca, Worf. They're just peculiar, or have different tones and shades, or peculiar looking to humans. And so there were some some beings like that, pardon me. They're laughing. But I don't really expect famous people to be around. You know what, you guys? Bill Paxton did show up in the last few weeks, and I knew him slightly and had a really, really awesome click connection soul tribe thing with him when he was alive. And I appreciate that as well. Just amazing, respectful, brilliant man he was. Kind, compassionate person, funny. So again, I knew him a teeny tiny bit, not big, but teeny tiny bit. And so when he passed, I was really sad to hear this. And I never even thought about asking him to come see me, but he did show up when I was kind of, going through a few moments of or whining to myself or overthinking or whatever it was. And he just brought the energy up so much. So he talked to me for just a minute or two, and that was awesome to see him. And I've spoken to Prince several times in channeling. And a couple of people have asked for him as well in readings. I do... I'm learning not to do 7 days a week readings, but the thing I'm most known for is, and they used to call me the angel lady for a zillion years when before I moved to Sedona. Like, people call me the angel lady for a long time. Well, some people. And so Prince, pretty groovy, really groovy energy to talk to. When Michael Jackson passed, I spoke to him quite a few times. I have not seen him lately, so it's not continuing. He was also just one of the biggest speakers ever on the planet. And how weird would that be, from being a little kid to the end of your life, just being super public and so big. JFK comes sometimes. And at first it almost not startled me, scared, but it startled me like, what do I do? I'm very casual. I hate politics. I'm out. I know. And he's very amazing and also very respectful, like very. So I've talked to him several times. I didn't ask him to come. He would not be someone I would be like, ooh, gotta call JFK right now. One time I was with a boyfriend, one of my soulmate, awesome boyfriends, it's not always awesome, ex-boyfriend, and he loves Elvis and musical. And I said, well, we can call and ask and see, like call it out to Spirit and ask. And Elvis said no. So he didn't come to talk to us that day. Doesn't mean he won't, doesn't mean he wouldn't. It's just he wouldn't. I've seen John Lennon. He's on my teams several times. I've also been asked about him. But very reliable, stable, amazing, fancy, what I would call a fancy job. People like me, maybe people that run a bank, asked about why would they see John Lennon. And I'm like, he's a teacher. He's a guide. He's an ascended master. I mean, he might have been a jerk bag here and there in his lifetime, but aren't all the rest of us too? I mean, we might all have had moments or pieces of our lives or addictions, we all have stuff. Every single one of those people that were famous were also people. So John Lennon was one of the, also with my, I wouldn't call Michael Jackson just like him at all, but some of the most, famous human beings with the biggest voice or speaking capacity, and helped bring change into the world through their music and speaking, more than just almost anybody on the planet ever. I mean, we also had TVs and phones and social media about, some of the things. So JFK, John Lennon, I'm trying to think of some of the others. Someone just asked me today, although it is my day off, of course I did 2 readings because that's what I do. And, I'm still working on my scattery balance and getting help with scheduling and getting everything back in order. I'm real excited about that. But I got to talk to a lady from Greece that I really love and like her so much. And she goes, where are the women in channeling? She asked me about channeling. She didn't know I was doing channeling. She didn't know anything about my Freddy Mercury, nothing. And so she just happened to ask these awesome synchronistic questions. And I go, I don't know. Like I have seen, I do believe, saints. There's a lot of women saints. Just because we didn't know them in our lifetimes and they weren't on our TV screens doesn't mean they weren't just as full of character as the famous people we know now. It's just different times, eh? And so she said, where are the women? So she asked about Maria Callas, which was the opera singer. She had a feeling. She felt her sometimes. And she said, oh, there are women. And I said, but think about this also. Divine feminine and divine masculine are balancing. Divine feminine has been super squished for a long time. Women still aren't even paid as well. Like, they don't get for the same job as well as men sometimes. I mean, really, that's a little off balance, right? And so women were not allowed to be in the power positions as much. Yes, some came. She asked about Coco Chanel, who just did it herself, had a little Freddy Mercury in her too, just a different package, a different way. And I was like, yeah, ooh, I guess so, yeah. But mostly our leaders and being in the spotlight have been men, that's all. It's not that the women are not available or not ascended masters or follow their truth. It's not like they're erased there or something. It's very plausible to hear from women. So those are just some of the people that I've channeled over the years, and it's not trance channeling. There are some really cool trance channelers, and that would be like we've seen them in the movies, or my favorite, and I got to watch not too long ago, was where Whoopi Goldberg's character, I think her name was Rita, in that role in Ghost with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. And the people go inside, or the beings, or the star beings, or the angels go inside. I don't know too many angels that want to go right inside of you, or the collective energy go inside the human being, and the human sort of just steps back. They're not disconnected and or anything like that, but they step back a little bit, and the being, or the people that are crossed over, speak out of them. Sometimes their accents, voices change, and their demeanor changes. So I'm not down with that. I don't really like that. So how it works for me is there's been an archangel that stands in front of me my whole life, and when I am visually seeing, the person or the being comes in close, and I can feel the frequency to tell if they usually, I've had to ask over the years here and there, and certainly learn the hard way here and there too, but ask if they're the truth, like, are they real people, and is this okay in the light of God? And they have to show you. I'm usually really good at being able to feel the frequency and know. So I don't trance channel, but this is my mediumship or channeling, and this is how I work. So I'm really grateful we got to do this today, and I send out a big whoosh wave of blessings to everybody. Lots of magnificent, dynamic love to everybody, and thanks for being with me today. And we'll do another, maybe a little shorter next time, but do another, and let me know if you have any requests, or if you want to talk about a subject. Oh, on that note, I've been asked about haunted houses, attachments in people, things like that quite a bit lately, actually for the last few years in particular. So we could talk about that. I'm certainly not channeling any creepy, leapy, weirdo, gross ghost negatives, but that's a different kind of mediumship than what I usually do. But we can address that, and how to heal thyself, heal your spaces, things like that. So that's awesome. But I've been asked that a lot lately. Thank you all. Many blessings and a lot of love. Take care. And go listen to some Queen.